There are hundreds of items in Skyrim, each leading to various different playstyles, but could you beat the game without using any of them? I set out to beat Skyrim in survival mode, without using a single item from the inventory. This means no weapons or armor, no food or potions, and not even spell tomes to learn new spells. So here's how this will work. Only quest items are allowed to be in the inventory tab of my menu, which ultimately means if the game will let me drop an item, I have to. Additionally, those quest items can only be used for their intended purpose within their respective quest lines. The only other rules are that I can't bring any companions along with me, the game does have to stay in survival mode at all times, and I'll be playing in the master difficulty. With this rule set, even the simplest of tasks can become huge obstacles to overcome, but I believe that it can be beaten. This run starts how they all do, with a gruelingly slow carriage ride towards my inevitable death. But before we get too far, let's very quickly talk about my choice of race for this playthrough. The addition of survival mode brought a bit of a rebalancing to the races of Skyrim, as various races received various benefits and drawbacks to actually surviving in this new game mode. However, I will be ignoring absolutely all of that because I picked a high elf, baby. I did not make this choice due to an overwhelming love of the Aldmeri Dominion, but rather because 90% of the things I can do in this run will be using the starting spells that you get at the very beginning of the game, so why not choose the race that had the most magicka and an ability to regenerate it very quickly. Honorable mentions go to Khajiit, Orc, and Dark Elves, which also all had traits that I thought could be helpful, but I'm going to be completely honest here and say that I did virtually no research into this decision before just picking something and rolling with it. A giant screaming lizard saved me from being killed by a slap fight between two man babies, and after running around like a buffoon for a while, Hadvar cut my restraints, I was able to strip down naked and start this run properly. Oh! Ah! Oh no! Don't suplex when you're in under. The intro segment went pretty much exactly as it always does. The flame spell is more than enough to get through everything here, so the only thing that was a bit different is I kind of just ignored everything Hadvar told me to do. And you can't even enable survival mode until exiting the cave on the other end, so let's just jump to that. Riverwood holds absolutely no benefit for us in this run, so it was time to mosey straight on over to Bleak Falls Barrow, stopping only to pick up the Mage Stone along the way in the hopes that we could eke out just a couple more destruction and restoration points. However, I did notice something interesting by the time I got there, and that's that I was already half dead. We're starting to not be able to see, we're so cold. But there's a fire here, we're fine. Warm me up, fire. Please? That's how this works, right? Do I have to stand, like, in it? Oh. The lighting effects are gonna, woof, drive me a bit nuts. Once inside, I did the usual. Beat a few bandits, bonk a spider, burn a man to death for a claw, but then I hit a bit of a snag on literally the first enemy I've encountered that was not the lowest possible level. Yeah, this is a restless Draugr that I almost definitely can't kill. Yep, there's the frost spell. Oh, dang it. Shoot, that killed me quick. After being repeatedly knocked on my behind by a single restless Draugr with a little freezy hand, I decided to pull out Old Reliable and let the somehow still functioning 1,000-year-old traps kill almost every Draugr in the entire dungeon. That's what I have to remember, is since health doesn't regenerate, whenever the health fades out, I'm used to that telling my brain health is full. When the health fades out, it's not full, it's just not moving. So I have to remember that. Then all that was left was to stare at a glowy wall for a while before slogging through a near endless fight with the singular remaining Draugr in the dungeon for the Dragonstone. Okay, that does that much damage off of a freaking Fus Roda. That's not good. This guy's gonna kill me by shouting me to death. That's not good. Please. Yes, he staggered. Okay. Just keep him on fire. Kill him. Yes. Give me that Dragonstone, you piece of garbage. Look at all that other stuff I can't have. And now, having completed the tutorial dungeon of the game, I am not only aggressively hungry, but also over an hour into the run. I am very quickly beginning to regret all the decisions in my life that have led me to this point. This could be a good, like, home base for us, though. So let's,
It's so nice to have a visitor.
Should I just kill her now? Finally, I was able to skedaddle on over to Whiterun, speak with the Jarl, hand the Dragonstone off to a finger wearing a robe, and listen to my singular favorite instance of voice acting in any video game ever.
It was fast. Faster than anything I've ever
seen. It was fast!
What did it do?
Faster than anything I've ever
attacking the
seen!
watchtower.
I never ran so fast in my life.
I never ran so
I
fast!
thought it would come after me, for sure.
It's the fastest man in Whiterun. Gauntlets? Ew. Stinky. The dragon was going to have to wait though, because first I wanted to go and join the companions. Now, I'll get into why later, but for right now, just know that I punched Vilkas in the face until he let me join, where they then told me to go punch someone else in the face. Like a random citizen. I'll be honest, everyone in Skyrim talks about the companions like they're this honorable faction, but the first job they gave me was to beat someone up because someone else was willing to pay for it. After beating to a pulp the poor woman with the misfortune of being married to Nazim, while he watched, don't think I didn't see you back there, Nazim. Why on earth didn't you help her? Sorry, sidetracked there. After beating her up, I was off to meet up with Irileth and the Whiterun Guard to finally take on my first dragon. Now, I was about as useful as you would guess in this dragon fight, but at least I was seething with righteous anger at this foul beast who had taken so many lives. I was practically seeing red. I was so mad about the injustice that had happened here. No, don't look down there. It has nothing to do with my near starvation. I'm just really mad at the big evil dragon. Naturally, as the dragon died, I absorbed its soul and learned how to shout, therefore proving me, an elderly, homeless, high elven man, to be the natural-born hero of the Nords. Now, after talking to the Jarl, collecting, and then immediately throwing away my reward, there was something very important I needed to go take care of, but in order to do so, first I have to explain one little technicality with this run. I will be allowing myself to use the money received as a quest reward in this run. But wait! I hear you calling out to a cold, dark void that neither listens nor cares. Magoo, money counts as an item. So here's the thing about that. What I'm considering an item are things found within the inventory of your menu. This is my inventory. What you won't find here is gold. The gold is found down here in the corner. Is that a stupid technicality? Yes, it most certainly is. But you know what's even stupider? The idea of playing this entire run in survival mode, which does not allow fast travel, and forbidding myself from having access to the carriages. Listen, that wouldn't make the run harder. It would just make the run more annoying and artificially longer. If you have an issue with the way that I've ruled this, feel free to call your local librarian. They won't be able to help you with that issue, but they will likely be able to tell you some really nice stories, which, if you're having that problem, I figure you will need because your life is most likely lacking in joy. If it's any consolation, I won't be using any of the money found on enemies when they die because that does show up as an item in their inventory. The same thing with chests. I'll only be using money given to me as the result of a completed quest, typically a quest for the companions. Like earlier when they paid me money to beat the absolute crap out of Nazim's wife. Now, I used exactly half of my current 100 gold to hire the carriage driver to take me up to Winterhold, where one of the few power boosts I can get in this entire run awaits. Now, you might remember from earlier, I'm not allowed to use spell tomes in this run. Spell tomes are practically the only way to learn new spells in Skyrim. I say practically the only way because there are a couple of key exceptions. One of those exceptions is the entrance exam to the College of Winterhold. Our lovely Feralda here asks you to demonstrate your prowess as a mage by casting a spell for her. In order to do that, you must first learn that spell if you don't know it already. There are 5 different spells you can choose from, one from each of the schools of magic, and you can reload repeatedly until you get the one you want. We're after the Firebolt spell here. By far the best one for our purposes, and realistically the only long-range combat option we will have this entire playthrough. To the best of my knowledge, each of the 5 spells she can offer here have an equal chance of being chosen. So please explain to me how I didn't get Firebolt until my 12th attempt. This is not a good omen for the rest of the run. Once you gain entrance to the college, Mirabelle will show you around while you nearly freeze to death, and then you'll have your first lesson, where you can learn one other spell without a spell tome, and that is Lesser Ward taught to you by Tolfdir. So naturally, I learned the spell to help with his demonstration for the class, and then promptly leave him standing there for seemingly the rest of eternity. Also, this was a complete waste of time because I don't cast Lesser Ward once in this entire playthrough. Stepping out of the college, I was met with a very disheartening realization. While you can take a carriage to any of the major holds in Skyrim, you can only take a carriage from the ones that have a stable. Now, I knew this already, but clearly I had forgotten it since I was very much expecting to see a horse-drawn carriage waiting for me outside. Okay, it does cost it costs exactly 20 to go to Whiterun though, and I have 20 gold. So if we can make it to Windhelm alive, then we can get back and we'll be back to $0. This is the mark of whether or not I can succeed on the run is, can I get to Windhelm before I freeze to death completely naked in the mountains of Skyrim? This is so stupid. pooping. So I set off on a brisk stroll from Winterhold all the way to Windhelm. Might I remind you, with absolutely zero stamina, because at this point I was in advanced stages of starvation. But don't worry, I most certainly was not on death's door from frostbite by the time I got there. Wait, this is warmth, right? Does this count as warmth? It does. I'm warming up. We're warming up. We're doing it. Not even close. After spending my last 20 gold on a carriage ride back to Whiterun, I teamed up with the companions one more time in order to dive into some ancient tomb to fight a very bland faction over a piece of some old dude's weapon. And hold on a second, Farkas is a werewolf? But wait, I hear you calling out to an increasingly annoyed, cold, dark void. Farkas counts as a companion, both figuratively and literally. However, in this sense, he's not a companion that I recruited to follow me. The plotline forces him to come along with you, and I don't count that because trying to avoid that would be a really weird headache. Besides, even with Farkas' help, I was barely able to get through the end of this quest and get my ultimate prize that I'd come here for, the Fire Breath Shout. Now, I know you get a word of this shout later in the questline, but it's very useful to me now, and also having 2 words later will be a significant power boost. Having gathered all of my needed power boosts, it was time to get back into... Wait, hold on. Is that... Are you seeing this too? They all look so delicious. I'm so hungry I think I'm starting to hallucinate. This is getting out of hand. But what can I do? Eating any food would be using an item from my inventory. There's no way I can... Unless I don't eat food. After a brief jaunt to Shriekwind Bastion and a battle with one of the people inside, all I had to do was sleep for about 3 days, and the next thing you know, the sun might be poison, but I can finally have a snack! So now it's time to head up to High Hrothgar. The problem is I'm perpetually naked, and it's up the tallest, snowiest mountain in all of Skyrim, so not freezing to death on the way up was going to be a bit of a problem. He looks so pathetic! Just like slowly trotting along. That's fantastic. Oh my goodness. Additionally, you have to go up and down to High Hrothgar many times in the main questline, so finding a reliable way to do so was going to be very important since I didn't have fast travel. After freezing to death in the snow a few times, I happened across a Stormcloak camp at the base of the mountain that could kind of check all the boxes for everything I needed. They had beds to sleep in, a fire I could warm up beside, horses I could steal to ride up the mountain, and even a healthy crop of races I could snack on if I ever got hungry. So now that my tummy was no longer rumbling, it was time to find a way up to High Hrothgar. After finally making it safely to the top, the elderly taught me how to scream real good, and then it was off to find the horn of Jurgen McDurgan. I didn't mention it earlier, but in addition to making you allergic to the sun, vampirism also gives you a massive weakness to fire damage. So these floor fire traps, if I got anywhere near them, would instantly incinerate me. Thankfully though, the ground is laid out in a way that you can use Whirlwind Sprint to pretty much bypass every single one of them. The problem is that makes you sprint right into a giant frostbite spider with your shout on cooldown. It's a little embarrassing to admit the number of times I died to the 3 spiders in this area, but eventually I was able to just brute force it by reloading and hiding behind rubble enough times. However, in this dungeon I was able to pick up the Become Ethereal shout, which will become increasingly useful the longer this run goes on. For the uninitiated, Become Ethereal makes you completely immune to damage for a couple of seconds, so long as you aren't taking any aggressive actions yourself. Additionally, your stamina doesn't deplete while it's active, which means you can sprint even if you only have a tiny sliver of stamina, which is great because that's all I ever have. But finally, the horn Wait a second, that's not a horn! As many of us know, Delphine done yoinked that horn, so I was off to Riverwood to listen to her blab for a while before coercing me into killing a dragon with her. But while there, I was able to drop off the Golden Claw to go ahead and lock down our carriage money for the rest of the run. Shockingly, the dragon fight didn't go all that poorly. Well, at least when I fought it at night, so I wasn't under the watchful eye of the blazing inferno in the sky. What did go all that poorly was what came afterwards, because it was time for the Thalmor Embassy. So for starters, you do have to put on a set of nice clothing to trigger the quest for Delphine to let you onto the carriage, but the second you step off the carriage, you can strip back naked again before walking into the Thalmor Embassy. Wait, he doesn't think I can handle this? Look, I am a sophisticated elf. Oh, sure, I have vampire eyes and I'm naked, but I can blend in with high society even with that. Realistically, there was only one room in the embassy that gave me an issue since you could run past most of the rest of it, but I did kind of slam my head into a brick wall in that room for quite a while trying to figure out what I was even supposed to do to move forward. What happens if you die and then hit the load zone? Where is my quest telling me to go? Isn't that all I needed? It's telling me to go back up through there. I don't know anything anymore. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. So I have to talk to the guy, right? Is that what's happening here? So I have to fight all these guys, is what I'm understanding, I believe. Oof. This guy with the lightning magic is going to be a problem. So there's only 2 dudes in here, and one of them's like a servant guy or something. So we should be able to win this fight. Oh, crap. You come from this room? That's not good. Don't freaking conjure a dead guy at me, you punk. The next room initially wasn't all that difficult since there's only one Thalmor soldier guarding the prisoner, but after releasing him and hearing what he has to say, Malborn shows up with like 3 more Thalmor soldiers that you have to fight in order to get the key out of there. This in and of itself wasn't very hard and I finished it the first try, but also they killed Malborn, which for some reason I had an ethical problem with and decided to try it again to make sure I could keep him alive, which I did succeed. And naturally, as soon as we went through the trapdoor, he tried to one-on-one brawl a frost troll and insta-died, at which point I completely gave up on ever trying to get him out of there and just left. With the new information gleaned from the Thalmor embassy, I now knew I needed to save a man named Esbern from the Ratways in Riften. However, in order to gain access to the Ratways in Riften, I first had to prove to Brynjolf that I was worthy of joining the Thieves Guild. This inherently causes problems, because to prove to Brynjolf that you are worthy, you have to help him with a job that requires lockpicking your way into a strongbox where you then steal an item to plant on someone else. This requires me to use a lockpick, which is an item, to then take an item, which obviously is also an item. So I could not do this quest. Thankfully, if you just wait around long enough and then leave town and come back, Brynjolf will eventually give up on you, get mad at you for not helping in the slightest, and then still decide that you're worthy of joining the Thieves Guild anyway and give you access to the Ratway. Shockingly, the main issue here was once in the Ratway, you have to fight the bartender of the Ragged Flagon, who was causing me some major issues. So there's this really interesting mechanic in Skyrim that whenever you get into a brawl, everyone in the surrounding area rushes over to watch the street fight, which is actually pretty realistic. The problem is that the developers got a little bit overzealous with how excited everyone would be to watch these brawls, to the point that they have a tendency to run straight into the middle of them and get themselves punched in the face. Now, this isn't inherently a problem. I personally have no issue punching innocents in the face. No, the problem comes from the reaction of everyone else around you. When you punch someone who's not involved in a brawl, even if they jumped in the middle of it willingly, everyone views that as effectively a terrorist attack and starts just lashing out at you. The good news is, as soon as you put your hands down, they will all instantly forgive you and go back to business as usual. The bad news is, in this moment of instant forgiveness, they all regenerate to max health for some reason. Because of this, and because of how desperately the rest of the members of the Thieves Guild really wanted to get punched in the face, I had to start this brawl over like 3 times. But after finally beating the information I needed out of him, it was off to the Ratway vaults to save Esbern. There's not a ton to say about this part other than one time when I quick saved at a bad time and got stuck in a death loop from a lightning bolt. Otherwise, most of the time the Thalmor just focus on Esbern, so picking them off isn't too hard. Then it was off to fight through a camp of Forsworn to get to Dragonborn Temple Land. However, I had the fortune of accidentally coming to the Forsworn camp from the side where the cave is. Wait, this is my objective? Why don't I just go in here then? I don't care about killing that dragon. Then something really strange happened. My character from somewhere pulled a dagger out to cut his hand to bleed on the seal to get into the temple. I don't have any daggers, or any weapons for that matter, so I can only assume that the dagger itself was an illusion, and he cut his skin by gouging at it with his own fingernails. Then after watching a crazy old man talk to a wall for a while, I went to go talk to a different group of crazy old men on a different mountain, who, as a reward for doing exactly what they told me to do, gathered in a circle and yelled at me. But anyway, after that, at least they did tell me how to scream weather away so I could run up to the top of the mountain to meet with Parthenax. Parthenax tells us that the only way to win is to learn to shout from the last 3 doofuses to fight Alduin, so we're off to just casually grab an Elder Scroll. The next bit of the quest is a lot of running around trying to find out information and not a lot of actually fighting, so just know that we ran up to the college, jumped off the bridge from the college and totally didn't die in the water below, and then up to meet with a crazy guy living in an iceberg who told us where to go find an Elder Scroll somehow. During that entire process, and on my way to the Dwemer ruins where the Elder Scroll was held, I probably froze to death like 10 times or something, but eventually I found a route to get there safely. Now, this is the part in the quest where you have to run through Blackreach, and as much as I would love to tell you that I valiantly fought my way through these ancient ruins, killing dwarven constructs and Falmer alike, I 100% just abused Become Ethereal to run straight past every single obstacle in my way and somehow magically nab an Elder Scroll out of that whole process. It's genuinely impressive how much of this quest you can just sprint by completely ignoring. The entire Blackreach segment was probably the quickest part of this entire run. That was a good thing though, because I did not know that I was about to hit the mother of all roadblocks in a challenge run. So this is the part where I have to steal another horse to ride up the side of the tallest mountain in Skyrim, again, just to get to the top to read the Elder Scroll in the right location to learn the Dragon Wrench shout. However, there was a bit of a problem with trying to do this. Oh, the screen's getting blurrier, and I don't think it's because of the cutscene. I really hope I'm not still, like, freezing. You would think that would happen sort of outside of time. Nope, it didn't. So it showed that I had a good chunk of health left, so what just killed me? Interesting. That's really dumb. So yeah, apparently while reading the Elder Scroll, even though your consciousness is like transferred to the past to watch this epic battle between 3 long dead heroes in Alduin, evidently your physical body is still standing on top of the throat of the world, freezing to death. And since this is a scripted cutscene effectively, there's nothing I can do to hurry this along. The duration of this causes me to freeze to death where I stand every single time. So sadly, no. Skyrim cannot be beaten in survival mode without using any items. Is what I would say if I wasn't the most stubborn person on this planet. The first, and to me most obvious way to handle this was to try to get to the location of the cutscene faster. See, the closest place you can warm up before this is the courtyard of High Hrothgar, which is quite a little walk up the mountain to get to this location. But I did manage to get to the High Hrothgar courtyard on the back of that same horse I stole earlier from the Stormcloak camp, so I could ride it straight up to the throat of the world as quick as possible. And I did manage to get there while only being chilly, and I thought that that might give me enough health to get to the other side of the cutscene, which it did. I mean, I still froze to death before I could get off the mountain, but that was progress. So naturally from here, the process was just get up there even faster. And I did get up there even faster, but then something really weird happened. Why am I dead? Why did I die faster this time? What was different? I don't know why it took so long for this to occur to me up until this point, but what if external factors actually affected how quickly you got cold? Now, obviously I had seen this elsewhere in the run, but I sort of assumed on the top of the throat of the world, it was just marked as incredibly freezing at all times, but that's actually not true. There's actually a large difference depending on the current weather and time of day for how fast you get cold on the throat of the world. And naturally, I had been doing this at night the entire time because I'm still a vampire who's allergic to sunlight. So I tried waiting it out till the next day, which meant I was hungry and cold again, so I had to run back down the mountain to snack on and steal another horse from the Stormcloaks. But when I got there, during midday, and tried the cutscene then, well, something pretty incredible happened. Oh no, what happens if I break the cutscene? We got a moonwalking horse! Look at that health. Look at that health. That's right. I stinking survived it. You can 100% survive that cutscene while buck naked at 100 health. You just have to do it during midday when there's no blizzard. And finally, it was like I could feel the wind in my sails again. I was actually making progress on this run. Now all I had to do was beat Alduin and I could get off this stupid mountain. So I tried this again and again, and it just wasn't happening. I can't fight him during the day because I can't regenerate magicka, which is my only way of dealing damage, but I can't fight him at night because I freeze to death too fast. As a potential remedy, my plan was just to do as much damage to him as I could, run down the mountain, warm up, and then come back up and pick up where I left off, but he's full health again. He's full health again. You have to kill him in one sitting here. Of course, that's not how that works, because as soon as you get out of range, he instantly regenerates, just like a very annoying bartender I recall. Ultimately, it became apparent that at my current level with my current build, it just wasn't gonna happen without freezing to death. It looks like it's time to finally revisit my friends and the companions. Yes, I wasn't lying earlier when I said that my main goal for joining them was to get the fire breath shout, but I also did want to have them as a backup in case the whole vampirism thing didn't work out in the long run. And knock knock, who's there? It's the long run, and things ain't working out. So then I was off to the Underforge to drink the blood of a werewolf and assume my true and glorious form along with my brothers and sisters in arms. But then I did have to very quickly go and clear out like a silver hand stronghold, because otherwise Ayla will just like follow you around until you do, which technically isn't a companion that I've recruited, but functions as one, so I wasn't having that. But then I was off to the throat of the world to embrace my destiny. Well, actually, before I could do that, I did have to first run by my favorite Stormcloak camp to get a much more aggressive snack this time and steal a horse, which I then had to use to run up a mountain, jump over High Hrothgar, and stand around in a bonfire to get warm for a while. But then I was off to the throat of the world to embrace my destiny in the morning this time. So, shockingly, Alduin, the World Eater, isn't a complete pushover for some reason. Not accounting for the whole Elder Scroll reading thing and all my time trying as a vampire, just this time up here as a werewolf took me 45 minutes of real-world time to complete. While I had extended my time significantly, I was still on a race against the clock, since once it hit nighttime, I would promptly freeze to death. Since this fight was so drawn out, let's take a look at it in phases. The first phase was to use Highborn and burn through as much of his health as possible using my very quick magicka regeneration at the start of the fight. And you can see that this is about where I got his health to off of using all of my magic, activating Highborn, fighting him for the duration of Highborn, and then using all of my magic again. From here, I tried a few other things with nothing working very well before I got a somewhat evil, but I thought very genius idea.
Can I just hit both of them with Dragon Rend so that Parthenax will have to stay here and fight him? Like, maybe that's a little cruel, but can I just force them into like a cage match is what I'm trying to figure out right now.
I thought it would be a great idea to just lock him and Parthenax down every time I use Dragon Rend, so that he would be distracted by Parthenax, who would also be doing significantly more damage since he wouldn't be flying all over the place, but rather would be holding still and fighting. This worked great for a while, as Alduin largely ignored me to fight Parthenax, and Parthenax was actually doing some significant damage, which he normally doesn't really do. And that got us to about here, before Parthenax was like knocked unconscious, the same way that like followers and NPCs are.
Is Parthenax unconscious? Is that a thing that can happen? That's a thing that can happen.
Except for one little difference. When most NPCs get to the point of like unconscious or taking a breather in combat, after a couple minutes they'll get back up and start attacking. I did not know until exactly at this point that Parthenax doesn't do that. So rather than giving myself a competitive edge in this fight, I just took out the only other presence distracting Alduin for the rest of the fight before even getting him to half health. For the duration of this fight, it's almost perpetually raining fireballs. It's a shout that Alduin does that he pretty much immediately triggers as soon as the previous instance of it ends. The issue here is that my health is so low that every time I get hit by so much as a single fireball, I have to use the healing spell to heal myself or the next one will kill me. Effectively meaning I'm perpetually at 0 magicka, because every time I get some, I have to use it to heal myself. So at this point, I'm on my own, and Alduin is still flying around constantly not at half health. For a while, I tried to brute force it by just locking him to the ground with Dragon Rend, and then blasting him with the Flame spell to get small little ticks of damage whenever I could. What I started doing instead is I would use Dragon Rend to get Alduin to come to the ground, and then once my shout came off cooldown, rather than using Dragon Rend again, I would use Fire Breath to get a guaranteed tick of damage before he went back up into the sky. Needless to say, this was incredibly tedious and took a very long time to make any significant progress, but I knew that realistically this was my only chance at getting him to half health and grounding him.
Wait, did I ground him? That seemed like a grounding thing. Did I do it? Because if he just stays down here, I can just keep fire breathing him. Which means like we can win.
Now, with Alduin grounded, there was no longer any reason to use Dragon Rend since he wasn't going to get up and fly anyway, so I could put all of my shouts straight into Fire Breath, meaning that there is a light at the end of this tunnel now, albeit it's a very long tunnel. And finally, I developed my last, most important strategy for beating Alduin on this mountain. Staring at the sky and playing Frogger. So you actually get a decent amount of warning before the fireballs hit you if you stare up at the sky. So I spent the rest of the fight hiding behind a rock, staring at the sky, and dodging fireballs left to right until my shout came off cooldown and I had enough magic to get off a single firebolt. At which point, I would shout at him, hit him with a firebolt, get back behind the wall, and keep dodging fireballs. At that point, all I had to do was rinse and repeat until I got him to low enough health to switch into beast form and just go maul him until he finally went down.
Did I do it? Holy crap! Get out! Screw you! Quest complete! Heck yes! It is possible! It's freaking possible!
This has genuinely been one of the hardest challenges to overcome in any playthrough of a video game ever for me, because it turned into this big puzzle-solving nightmare of how to exploit the game mechanics in the perfect way to get to the other side of something I had no right in being able to do. But finally I had done it. I had defeated Alduin on the throat of the world in survival mode.
We did it! Ah! That took so long!
Now, the game doesn't end here because you obviously have to go chase him to Sovereign Guard and do all that, but at this point, I felt like I was pretty unstoppable. Anything else that awaited me could not be as hard as this, so I was ready to just power through what was left. Power through was really the best words for it because it was about time for the Peace Council, which is effectively just 20 minutes of a bunch of adults acting like a bunch of babies that amounts to nothing just so that you can get their permission to let you save the world. So, long story short, I did negotiate a truce, and then I just sort of screamed a dragon's name into the sky, where he then was very easily lured into a trap, and honestly, shockingly easily convinced to let me ride on his back to be dropped off at the gates of the afterlife. Now, this pseudo gate to the afterlife is called Skuldafn Temple, which is full of ancient Draugr and dragons all trying to kill you. However, much like Blackreach, you can run past almost all of this if you just use the Become Ethereal shout and don't stop running. So, of course, that's exactly what I did. There is like one Draugr you have to fight, but other than that one Draugr, I could run past everything, including the final dragon priest you're supposed to fight. If you run straight past him, you can jump directly into the portal to Sovngarde. And jump into that portal I did, and I saw the most beautiful message when I got there.
You not feel hunger, exhaustion, or cold here? Yes! Ah, incredible! It's 'cause we're in Nord heaven. The Nords don't get hungry, tired, or exhausted, or sleepy, or naked here. They just get to party all day. Maybe they do stay naked here, I don't know.
On my way into someone else's afterlife, I did happen across one of the Stormcloak soldiers that I'm pretty sure I killed earlier, and man was it incredible.
Did I eat you? That was awesome! Holy crap! That's fantastic. I want to see that happen 20 more times.
With that obvious sign of good fortune, I was straight off to find the legendary heroes of old. In order to talk to those ancient heroes though, first you have to prove that you're not like complete crap at combat, I guess. Which is weird because you literally have to have defeated Alduin once to even get this far. So yeah, I curb stomped Soon, who then let me cross the bridge into the Hall of Dead Nords.
That was it? That was it? This is incredible!
After screwing around in there for a little while, it was back out front with the 3 dead amigos to scream at Fog over and over while they repeatedly acted like it was of some major significance.
Cannot fight the foe in this mist. Does his strength have no end? Is our struggle in vain?
All that was left at this point was one more match with Alduin, but this time with 3 times the number of additional distractions. So yeah, it went a lot better than last time, especially with the, the lack of constantly freezing to death.
Roda! Hers is so funny to me. Roda!
To really assert my dominance, I took on my true and glorious form one last time to slash him to death at point blank range, and also probably deeply upset all of the Nords around me before I finally answered the question that yes, you can beat Skyrim in survival mode without using a single item. I quickly just want to say a massive thank you to anyone who made it to the end of this video. If you're interested in more challenges like these, I'm going to be doing more in the very near future, all of which will be streamed here on this channel. So please feel free to subscribe if you want to see what I do next. But until next time, I'm Magoo, peace and out. Later.